Hello, my name is Kira Doherty and I am a student at Tarleton State University. This is my senior year and this is actually my final project to get my Bachelor of Science in Psychology. My study is called Facebook Usage Frequency and Anxiety Levels in Adults. As I go throughout my presentation, I'm going to pause the video and zoom into some parts of it because some of my graphics are a little bit small and I want to make sure that you are able to see them. Just a moment ago, my study is called Facebook Usage Frequency and Anxiety Levels in Adults. This is my introduction over here. And the hypothesis is, the aim of this study is to find if there is a correlation between Facebook usage frequency and high anxiety levels in adults. Other studies, such as Deer et al. And Bettman et al., discuss social media's impacts on people without discussing one specific platform. That was something that I noticed was very common throughout psychology research about social media. There was multiple types of social medias used per study, but there was not just one that was honed in on. And so I was kind of interested to see if just one social media platform had the same kind of impact as all social media platforms together. The independent variable in my study was the amount of time Facebook was used weekly, and it was measured with Facebook Usage Frequency Index, which was created by Vogel et al. In 2015. And then the dependent variable was anxiety levels, which was measured with Beck Anxiety Inventory, Beck et al., 1988. And this was the independent variable and dependent variable because the anxiety levels of people supposedly, hopefully, are impacted by the amount of time that Facebook is used. And my prediction for this study was that there would be a positive correlation between higher levels of anxiety and higher Facebook usage amongst adults. Brings us on to the methods section. The participants in this study were 15 participants, 10 were females, 4 were males, and 1 was non-binary. Their ages were ranging from 18 to 54, and I actually have a pie chart that breaks down what percentage of subjects were what ages, so let me zoom into that. 30% of the subjects in this study were 18 to 24 years old. 33% of subjects were 25 to 34. 7% were 35 to 44 years old, and 20% were 45 to 54 years old. Procedures that were used in this study were a self-reporting survey that was created in Google Forms, and it was distributed online through Facebook. I put a link on my Facebook, and a lot of my friends and family filled out the information. Informed consent was required to participate in the survey, and participants were told that it was voluntary and that they were not going to be paid for it. And the kind of sampling that I used was a convenient sampling just because it was easier to find subjects to participate in my study this way. And it was also a lot faster than trying to sample in any other way. And just based on the constraint of time, I thought that it was the best for this study. The measures that I used were demographic data, hours of Facebook usage weekly, which was the Facebook Usage Frequency Index, and then levels of anxiety, which I took using the Beck Anxiety Inventory. And then once I got all of this data, I put it into, so you can take Google Forms and turn it into an Excel spreadsheet. And so then I put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and that was how I was able to compile all of the data and then turn it into charts and break it down and figure out my Pearson correlation, which I'm going to go over in just a moment. For this study, because I was comparing two different variables, I thought that the best method to use would be a Pearson correlation and regression analysis. And so I found out this information whenever I plugged it into Excel. And I found out that the hours of Facebook usage frequency, the mean was 8.1 hours among all of my subjects, and then the standard deviation was 4.136. And then for levels of anxiety, the mean score was 24.13, and this actually falls into a moderate level of anxiety for the Beck Anxiety Inventory. And I thought that was pretty interesting because that means that a majority of my subjects are experiencing higher than normal levels of anxiety. And then the standard deviation for that information was 10.11. And so here's my Pearson correlation coefficient. It's 0.063. And there's a low positive correlation between higher frequency of Facebook usage and higher levels of anxiety, which I did not feel was statistically significant. I didn't think that it was a high enough number in order to show a true correlation. The null hypothesis was rejected, and then the anxiety regression equation is right here. And when we go down here, you can see that I have a scatter plot that is comparing the Facebook usage frequency in hours versus the anxiety scores from the Beck Anxiety Inventory. And as you can see, they were kind of all over the board. There was a very low positive correlation, but like I said, I didn't feel that it was significant enough to prove that, oh yes, this is positively correlated. With the Beck Anxiety Inventory, there were 3 different ways that people could score based on the number that they got. The highest number that you could get for the whole entire test was 63. And I didn't have anybody get the highest score possible, but I did have quite a few people get concerning levels of anxiety. So you could get low anxiety, moderate anxiety, and potentially concerning levels of anxiety. Low anxiety was a score of 0 to 21, moderate anxiety was a score of 22 to 35, and potentially concerning anxiety was a score of 36 and above. The average score amongst subjects was 8.1. The average score amongst subjects was 24.13. This pie chart shows that I had 40% of my subjects that fell in the low category, and I had 40% of my subjects that fell in the moderate anxiety category, and then I had 20% of my subjects that fell in the potentially concerning category, which means that 60% of my subjects were experiencing higher than normal levels of anxiety. I originally predicted that the correlation between Facebook usage frequency and anxiety levels in adults would be positive. The data collected concluded that there was a very low positive correlation between higher Facebook usage and higher levels of anxiety. This resulted in rejection of the null hypothesis. And like I said, the correlation I just didn't believe was strong enough to say that yes, there is a positive correlation between these two. And then another reason that I couldn't just say yes, that there is a positive correlation between the two is due to the limitations of my study. I actually had quite a small sample size, and there was a much larger amount of female than male subjects. I think like 2/3 of my subjects were female, which is not representative of the whole population at all. There are many anxiety-inducing things going on in the world right now, such as coronavirus and the election, which could be contributing to people having moderate to high levels of anxiety, and it might not actually have anything to do with Facebook at all, and so that definitely needs to be considered when looking at this study. My advice for future researchers would definitely be to use a larger sample size and to try to focus on a larger age range. Mine was only 18 to 54, and I also don't feel that that is fully representative of the population that I was going for. Originally in my study, I had made it to where you could be from ages 18 to 75 and older, and I just didn't have anybody from 55 to, as old as possible fill out my survey. And that could very well be also because I distributed it over Facebook, and there are not as many elderly people on Facebook. So I don't know. Due to many limitations, my study cannot prove or disprove any theories. The study might warrant looking further into whether there's any kind of correlation between the variables tested amongst a larger sample size. So I think that a lot of different things could be done with a study similar to this. I mean, I definitely think that somebody who has more resources than me could get a lot more subjects in order to test this. And I also think that other things could be looked into, like maybe more specific subsets of Facebook, like um, the posts, what, like people who post more daily, how their anxiety levels are, maybe things about how instant messaging over Facebook can create higher levels of depression. I know that there was also a lot of information about how social media impacts depression and other studies that I looked into. And so down here, I have all of my references, and that includes Beck over here, which is the guy who did the study that gave me the Beck Anxiety Inventory in order to conduct this project. And then also Vogel down here, which gave me the frequency of Facebook use index. And then I have a lot of other studies that I looked into that told all about anxiety and depression and how it is linked to higher usage of social media. So that is all that I have for today. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.